one example of that is in order to study something as complicated as verbal thinking, Vygotsky said you needed to find a unit that was irreducible, the basic, it was primary, but at the same time reflected the essence of the whole, of the unification, verbal thinking. Well, he said that unit that would be or should be meaning through language. The Russian is značenje, meaning, slova, word, and that was the unit that he was going to analyze to try to understand verbal thinking, which is a key component of consciousness. Well, in English, that's been translated as word meaning. And when Vygotsky was using word, he was using word to mean language as a whole. Sort of in the beginning was the word. And so as he was looking at this internal system of meaning that's created through language and thinking processes. So you can't look at meanings of words without thinking about the thinking processes. And what's happened is that almost the entire focus has been on the meaning of words and not on this internal system. And Leontiev said this unit, the word meaning, was inadequate to study consciousness, and came up with a different one, activity theory, human activity, and that became his focus. But it was theoretically based, or not theoretically, actually based on Vygotsky's foundation. And so the essence of his work, the key central point that he was talking about, this internal system of meaning that's created through language, is virtually ignored. And so you find with great thinkers a big problem with translation. One is you need somebody who is capable in both languages, but also somebody who understands the complexity of the thought. And usually you get one but not the other. And that's happened with Vygotsky's work. And so it's come down. There was an edition 1962 in translation, but in that translation they removed every reference to Marx and Engels. So they pretty much took the heart of Vygotsky's methodological approach right out of the work. That was 1962, and ironically that's the version that Ausubel and Novak use and reference. Another edition came out in 1986 that was edited by Kazulin, and he based his on this 1962 edition. And so there's still huge pieces of Vygotsky's work that are missing, that just aren't there, essential pieces of it that aren't there. And then his collected work started to be translated in, and the first volume was published in 1987. And while it has a more complete rendering of, and more accurate rendering of Vygotsky's original work, it too suffers from translation problems. And Leontiev, who was responsible for, he did a 1956 translation to which he added and took away Vygotsky's words. And then he did another edition in 82 where he made changes again. And the 87 version is based on the 1982 translation. So there's changes in there. There's a recent Spanish edition that is 2007 that goes back to the original. And then a professor in Italy, Mercacci, has produced a book that goes back to the original but that it also notes the changes that were made in 1956 and in 1982. And then Vera John Steiner and Michael Cole took some of Vygotsky's works and translated them into a compilation in Mind and Society, which is probably the best known and most read of his works. But it's not a very, it's a smaller volume, and it also suffers from interpretation in that some passages were taken from one work of his and another and put together without that being noted, and it changes the meaning of what Vygotsky was saying. But through that book, I think people were able to see that Vygotsky had an approach to understanding the development of the human mind, and could see also very important components in the learning process, the important role of social interaction in the classroom, having the students be engaged in constructing the knowledge, being aware of the process of development, and even though it's misrepresented often, that the concept of the zone of proximal development is a very important one. And so